Oh, how time flies. Can you believe it's already time for a 6-month review on the Z900RS Cafe? What's happening, everybody? So, what I want to talk about is this motorcycle sitting behind me. I want to give you my thoughts on this bike now 6 months into ownership. Would I still buy it again? Are there some things that I wish it did differently? Or have I discovered things about it that maybe I didn't pick up on before? Now let's dive into all of this. So first and foremost, the Z900RS Cafe, still absolutely love this motorcycle. I bought it specifically for the look and for the ergonomics. The power that this bike puts down though from the factory, well, it depends on where you're coming from, whether it is acceptable or not. See, here's the thing. From just a pure aesthetic point of view, and just from a pure riding point of view, if that's all that you're gonna do with the bike, kind of commuting, playing around with it here and there, but you're not taking the bike too seriously, then the way that it comes from the factory is absolutely just fine. However, if you decide you want to start tapping into some of that sport bike DNA that this bike brings to the table, well, you're going to really have to start making some changes to the bike to make it acceptable for that purpose. In my case, airbox mods, an air filter, an Ivan's tune, Brock's Street Meg full exhaust, 16-tooth front sprocket, G2 quick throttle, some suspension adjustments, a lot of things that folks do anyway to personalize their motorcycles, and these personalizations happen along the journey. But it would be considered mandatory if you are really planning on getting this motorcycle out and running with some of the big boys, so to speak. Although even in this configuration, the power is just adequate, in my opinion, for a sport bike. It is just at the base level for what I would consider to be a power level that I wouldn't start getting bored with this bike, which is a nice place to be. Now with the horsepower additions and with some of the ergonomic changes that I've made, the bike is comfortable at speed, it's plenty fast, and it's plenty fast without putting me in a situation where I feel like the bike is in essence overpowering me. So in all aspects, I love the balanced nature of the bike. Now, as a motorcycle owner, we always want more. More power, better suspension, better brakes, and what have you. But for the limitations of the street, and for the real type of riding that you would find yourself doing, even on B&C roads, I found this motorcycle to be ideal at that. But you always want a little bit more, and I get that. But this is as far as this motorcycle can realistically be taken without cracking open the engine and swapping out cams, pistons, and everything else. And you would be forgiven if you chose to go that route, because just look at how badass the bike looks. No other motorcycle can compare with this bike when it comes to just absolutely nailing that late 70s, early 80s aesthetic. And it really is for the look of the bike that you pick this thing up. But you would want to have more power, but there's no other competitor. I mean, you can start trying to rattle off this one or that one, and I get it, there are some out there that kind of get there, but nothing really nails that look like this bike. Now, what would I like to have changed, or if there were to be a new motorcycle released, what would I like out of that bike? Well, I'll put it to you like this. First and foremost, I wouldn't get rid of this one to get the bike that I'm gonna describe. That's how much I like this motorcycle. But I wouldn't buy it again, not if this bike existed. Something along the lines of a true 1000cc motorcycle. The 948 is great, but it just lacks a little bit. Give me 1000 cc's. What I would like is a modern incarnation of the GPZ 1000. Interestingly enough, now with all the modifications to this motorcycle, it's making the same horsepower as that original GPZ 1000. In fact, maybe just a tick more, but it checks in at 100 pounds less. What I would like to see is a modern translation though. Say around 165 or 170 horsepower. And then carry that aesthetic over. that would be the bike that I would personally buy. And I would buy it without getting rid of this one. That's how much I like this motorcycle. But in light of the fact that there are no more powerful or more sports-oriented bikes or more motorcycles that carry the real theme and the spirit of those early muscly sport bikes, well, that's what it would take to get me into another bike. For me, hyper nakeds are really not where it's at. I prefer the horsepower levels at around 150 to 170 at the top, just because that's about the extent of what I and a lot of folks can get out of these motorcycles on the street. Much more than that, and you know those typical suspects that I'm talking about, and you find yourself with far more motorcycle and far more nannies kicking in than what I would prefer to have. For me though, this motorcycle, the way that it sits, is ideal. Although, again, I would like a little bit more power. I can tell you that I'm now not left wanting for more than what this bike will deliver. And if that new bike had a real close ratio 6-speed as opposed to a 5-speed plus overdrive, well, that would be a nice little addition too. See, that's the only real beef that I have with the bike sitting behind me. It's a 5-speed plus a 6th gear that is very far removed from the 5th that it follows. Whereas most other motorcycle transmission ratios are a close ratio 1/6. Give me the displacement, give me the gearing that will allow the longer legs, and then give me a more traditional transmission spread along with maybe another 20 or 30 horsepower. You get the idea though. Guys, yes, love the bike, still love the bike, would not get rid of it for its next incarnation. But I would be a player on a bike that could still deliver an aesthetic like that with the true power of some of these modern hyper naked bikes. And with that, guys, post up your comments, let me know what you think, and we'll catch you on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.